Greetings. This is Arvat of Speak, the Universe Listens. As a very young person, I always felt that I carried the weight of the world on my shoulders, having to make grown up decisions in order to survive a life marked with physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. While my face was smiling on the outside, on the inside, I always secretly cried and felt miserable. However, over the years, I learned some gems that helped to turn my life around. I now get to live the life of my dreams, filled with love, travel, and wonderment. And I am absolutely passionate about sharing what I have learned with you. If you want to live your best life, tune in each week as I, along with some amazing guests, share these life changing gems with you. Inspired to be more, do more, have more. Greetings and welcome to Speak, the Universe Listens. And today's topic is a solution to every problem. Hey, Stephen.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great.
Awesome, awesome.
Once again, we're both in our cars recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, so guys, we're recording for our car from our car due to just social distancing, and hopefully by the time this airs, because we are recording in advance, so by the time this airs, hopefully this social distancing thing will be a thing of the past. But for now, we're staying safe, and I am actually in my car because I am staying a little bit off the grid, and we just can barely get internet connection. It's very, very spotty there. So I have to drive, and you can probably see behind me, I'm sitting in the Hardee's parking lot
Are they?
in the internet. So, but just so happy to be here. Always happy to have a chance to just be in commune with you all. So,
Mhm.
and always happy to talk to Stephen. How are you, Stephen?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm terrific. So,
Awesome. Awesome.
a solution to every problem. Well, that's the good to know that there is a solution to every problem.
It is. It is. It really is. It took me a while to realize that.
Yeah, I think once you the word problem, they problem and solution actually go hand in hand. If there's a problem, a solution is already available to us. And so how do you tend to get to those solutions, Stephen?
Well, I pretty much get to it as far as number one, I have to accept it. So pretty much accepting what I have going on in my present moment. You know, because I know sometimes some of the time a lot of people may sit back and they're so frustrated and mad at whatever the situation may be that they're going through in life that they can't accept, their present moment. They can't accept what's going on in their life. And so that's pretty much a little cause as to why they're still stagnant and they're stuck. So when you get to that understanding of just being able to accept what it is that you can't change, then you be able to step into uh, the next phase of making it happen, changing what you can, changing your circumstances, put it like that. So I can say for me, there was a lot of things in my life, like when my brother passed, for example. I wish I could change the circumstances, but I couldn't change those circumstances. And so for a long time, I used to just beat myself up about it because, I wanted to be able to show them the things that I learned, on my journey as far as just um, awakening pretty much, and just learning new things in my life, seeing things in a whole different aspect. And I wanted to share that, and I never had the opportunity to share that. So when I got to that point in my life as to where it was like, you know what, stop beating yourself up. Can't change it, Then it was like, you know what, bam, I accept it. I accept that I can't. That sort of just led me to fixing my problem a little bit, stepping into the next level, the next phase of my life.
Yeah, so that's really great. accepting it, accepting the present as it is. I love that. And also, yeah, I think with the acceptance, it's like it releases resistance. So once you accept it, then the solution can come easy because you're not fighting against it. Like the energy of fighting, if you push something, it's going to push you back. We know that.
Right,
So I think accepting puts us in a place of not pushing. We're not pushing against it, and then we're not going to get the pushback.
right. And then, over top of that, accepting it, then whatever your circumstances is, I learned that if you don't like it, then you have to change it. So with that emotion that I had, that I just, I felt so bad about that I couldn't give, to him at that time. Um, got myself into a space as to where it was like, you know what, you don't like feeling like you don't like the feeling of being miserable and sad and having that feeling of, I wish I could have done this, and um, a little bit of depression mixed in with that. So I realized that, after I got to the space of accepting it, now I have to change it. So how can I change it? I had to sit back and I had to change my surroundings. I had to not just change my surroundings or my environment, but I had to change my mentality, my thought process.
Mhm.
You know, now that I recognize that, hey, you accepted everything, Stephen. So now that you accepted it, okay, so change the thought process, change everything around you. And I think for some people, it takes time to accept the things that you can't change. And when it comes to changing, your situation in life or your circumstances, um, it's not difficult. If anything, it may be challenging. Okay, that's the word I would like to use, challenging, because nothing is hard. We just make it hard for ourselves. You know. So just get into that space of just changing. And every day I tell people, baby steps, because I already know from my experience, people don't change overnight. It's just like somebody have a habit of drinking. Well, they may go to rehab, and just because they spend one day in rehab, that doesn't change them automatically. So they had to go through baby steps. So I would recommend it for anybody. Just, hey, take the step first to change. And then when you take that step, then it's gradually you start to, okay, level yourself up slowly but surely.
Mhm. Yes. And I also like Dana Wow. She always says the problem
Mm,
isn't the problem. The problem is that you're talking about the problem. And
damn,
so
I
And so
like that.
basically, the whole thing is what you put your attention on grows. And oftentimes, when we quote unquote have a problem, we'll just keep talking about the problem. The problem is this, and the problem is that, and the problem is this, and the problem is that. And so, like Dana Wilde describes it as, because we have a reticular activating system in our brain. And so, whatever we put our attention on, whatever we think about, our brain is going to find more of that in the
Right,
environment. So the more you say, this is the problem, your brain is going to find all the things that match up to that. So if you're saying, people don't support my business, then you're going to find all the people who won't support your business.
right,
Or if you're saying, people aren't kind, then you're going to find all the people who aren't kind. And so rather than talking about the problem, you want to talk about the situation that you want to exist. You want customers who love your product and they can't wait to pay for it.
right,
You
right.
want to talk about all the wonderful people that you see on a regular basis and how kind those people are. So talk about what you want and not what you don't want. So
Yeah, that's
I
great.
love that way of looking at problems and solutions.
Solution. I love it. I love it. I say, with that, what you were just saying, pretty much it's almost like a law of attraction, basically. You attract the things that you think about. So what is it that we're thinking about? Is it something that's bettering us as people, or is it something that's keeping us in a space where we no longer want to be, but we're just stagnant. We just
Mhm.
can't move past it. So after you get to this point of change, when you take that step into changing, now you have to sit back and leave all the things that no longer serve you. As far as your thought process. I think a lot of people, including myself, I was in that position before as to where I couldn't let go of what I couldn't change. And I couldn't let go of it because I was so used to it. This was something that drive me. That pain and that emotion drove me so heavily into, doing the things that I was doing and pushing myself um to become a certain individual, and when I realized that I didn't even need that. Like I just need to leave that emotion because regardless of me taking that and trying to transform it into something to drive me, I sit back and I say, you know what? I have to let that go because as soon as I let that go, I'm going to experience something better in my life, something that I never experienced. And it may be better for me. And it may be that thing that I've been missing in my life that I've been looking for. Because I'm thinking that my thought process was, I'm thinking that, okay, by me holding on to this emotion and to this feeling, it's going to continuously keep me going, keep me driving. But then I say, you know what? It's not because I'm still missing, missing something and I don't know what it is, right? So when I got to that point of letting those uh emotions go as far as brother, how I felt, it really elevated me to like see it's a different side to life as far as where I want it to be,
Mm. Yeah.
and I managed to level up.
Yes. I think another way to help let go of things that just seem like you just don't know how to let it go,
Right.
is to actually off to bless it, so to speak. So basically, instead of us looking at um, conceptualizing things like this is bad or this is set me back or this really hurt me, um instead of looking at situations from that perspective, to really realize that everything is set up in the universe for our benefit. So even if it seems like the worst thing ever, when you look back on, if you look back in your life, some of the worst things that have happened, you usually can find a blessing. And you're just like, oh, see, if that wouldn't have happened, then I wouldn't be blank. And so
Right.
when you start realizing that, you know, these things happen for me, and sometimes we can't see why. We don't know why this is happening for our benefit. We might not know for 10 years from now, we might not know for 15 years, and we might not ever know. But if
Mm.
you really hold on, if you're able to put yourself in that space, like, I don't know why I'm going through this, but I'm gonna believe it's for my benefit, and then thank it. Basically, thank it. Thank it for showing up. Thank it for the lessons that it's already taught you. Thank it for the lessons that it's going to teach you. Thank it for who you are becoming as a result of this thing. Um, and I think that's another way you can kind of let it go. Is just to bless it and thank you, and kind of like send it on its way.
And I agree with you with that. I think also too we need to forgive ourselves. And when I say forgive ourselves, forgive yourself for beating yourself up, forgive yourself for holding on to those emotions that kept you stagnant. Forgive yourself for having those feelings of resentment towards somebody or resentment towards yourself. And so when we get to that point of forgiving ourselves, that can also be a way to free us up, as far as letting go of things. And I think a lot of the time, like I said before, a lot of us, it's something that we love to just hold on to, that feeling of resentment, and whatever the feeling that we may have of holding on to something is more of, you got to change, but people are more scared into stepping into the new, because you're stepping into the new, then that means you got to let go of the old. And so the old is something that you've been so accustomed to
Mhm.
that now that you got to step out there, and experience something new, it's a little bit scary because you're so used to this feeling and this emotion that you always had that you felt like was driving you, and it really wasn't even serving you to your best ability, you
Right.
know, that we so often of the time don't even really realize that. So when we let go of that, and like I said before, just forgive ourselves, and don't be scared to really take that stepping into new territory
Mm-hmm.
as far as mentally wise.
Right.
Then it'll be like, okay, wow, this it's not that bad.
Yeah, and you say that a lot of times this resentment and this pain and hurt can drive you in, or you feel like it can motivate you, but also sometimes it you can feel like it's holding you back. So you
Right.
can feel like, oh, because this person did this horrendous thing to me, now my wings have been clipped. And I know I felt like that for years. Like, because of all these things that have happened to me, now I can't fly. I can't spread my wings and fly. They took that ability away from me. And so when you're holding that story, you holding that storyline, now you can't do anything. You can't move forward because you keep telling yourself that same storyline. And so
Mhm.
when you let it go, now what? Because now, one, who are you now without that story? And
Exactly. Yeah.
two, now you get to fly, but are you ready? And do you want to? And are
And yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, just get into that mindset of just forgiving ourselves, and just knowing that in our lives, if somebody was to really just think about their life and over the years of where they came from and what they've been through in their life, if you think about it, everybody has changed, and sometimes don't even realize that they didn't change from mentally wise, how their thought process used to be. So it's like all of us have seasons in our life that we go through. Everybody does. And everybody transforms. Each season that we go through, we transform into the next season. And
Hmm.
then we go to the next season. So when you take the time out to really think about where you came from and to your present moment, then you'll realize, wow, I have changed. So when you realize that you have changed, then that can sort of assist you into changing your thought process on how you think, because you always thought that it was so hard. And in actuality, it wasn't even hard at all because you had done it before. you know, you had done it before. So I would think that, if somebody was to really just take the time out and just just take a look at their past and their whole life and to their present moment, and think about what has changed. Think about where they came from, and
Hmm.
apply that thought process towards elevating yourself into new territory. Like,
Hmm.
okay, it's not that
Yes.
hard.
And one of my favorite ways to move past problems, well,
Mm-hmm.
my favorite way really is just to put your attention on something else. But one
Right.
of my funnest ways, the funnest thing is to actually ask for help from the experts. And when I
Mm-hmm.
say the experts, what I mean is, it doesn't even matter if they're living or dead. You don't even have to actually talk to these people. And I had this experience twice, and it was just amazing. So the first time it happened was, I was taking chemistry. I took 4 semesters of chemistry,
Right.
and I did not understand chemistry at all. I studied it and I studied it, and I couldn't get it.
Couldn't get
It just didn't make sense to me. And I don't to this day, I don't know why it didn't click with me, because math and sciences, that's my strong suit. So why I couldn't get chemistry, I just do not know. But anyway, so
right.
when I went to take my very first exam in my first chemistry semester, I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm clueless. Like, I've studied. I mean, when I say I studied, right, and still knew nothing at all. And so I'm just
Right.
like, I'm going to go in here and fail. And so, I prayed, and then I was like, well, let me call on the experts. And so I called on George Washington Carver and Mae Jemison, and I was like, look, I'm gonna need some help here. come help me with this exam, you know. And
Right.
I honestly, I asked them to pour their knowledge into me. And so I went into the exam. I don't know what I wrote on that paper, Stephen. I have no
Mm-hmm.
idea what I wrote on that paper. And so when I had no idea how I did on the exam, because it just was like foreign language to me. I just didn't. When I say I didn't get chemistry, I just didn't get it. And so when we got our exams back, you know, next class or whatever, I'm looking at everybody's paper on the sneak, and everybody had done so poorly on the exam. So I knew I had failed because I was the absolute last one in class, and
Uh,
the teacher put me out. Like the
really?
instructor's like, you know, I really have to go. You're gonna have to turn that paper in. And so anyway, I got my exam back and I got an A.
Wow.
And so I was like, what? You
You
know,
were surprised?
yes. And so of course now all the students are asking me for help because of course the professor is like, we got one A. So everybody's like asking me for help. And I'm just like, I
I don't know what to
don't know.
say.
I have no idea. I can't help you. And so anyway, the next exam came around. I did the
Mm-hmm.
same exact thing. Next exam, I did 4 semesters of chemistry. I got A's on everything to the point
Wow.
where my professor, the professor I had for my I can't remember if she was my 3rd semester or 4th semester professor. She started making the exams harder and putting stuff on the exams that we didn't cover in class because she
Right.
said no one is supposed to get an A on her exam. And she was like, I'm starting to think you're smarter than me. That's what she told me. I'm starting to think you're smarter than me. And I'm just like, nope,
I don't
I don't
know.
know. I don't,
I don't know, baby. So,
but I really did not have any, I know no chemistry,
wow.
none.
Hey, don't feel bad. I don't either.
But I asked the experts, and they poured their energy. They did that. They did those exams. I didn't do those exams. Now I don't know if it's a good thing. You know, luckily I'm not trying to be a doctor. You know, operate on anybody or make up any pharmaceuticals because I don't know how to do that. But I got A's on.
Hey, look, you trip on it now.
And another time when I did that, and I'm gonna make this story short, even though to me it's just as amazing, is I had a race that I had to run, and if I won the race, I was running against the elites, but I was getting a head start. If I won the
Right.
race, I would win a cash prize. But it was mathematically impossible for me to win the race based on the fastest time I had ever run. Like it was an impossibility for this to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
I even had a coach, and you know, when he found out the limited head start that they were giving me, he was just like enraged, and he wrote this letter basically like, it's no way she can't do this, you need to give her more of a head start. And you know, if your coach is saying you can't do it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, bad.
So one of the things that I did was I called upon Jackie Joyner Kersey, Jesse Owens,
All
Usain
that.
Bolt, you know, like I called on all of them, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna need you today. Just really asked them to put into me what's in them, like their level of endurance, how, you know, the mechanics of their body, like all of that, just pour into me and allow me to help me with this race. And I actually, they did do this event every year. They have a person like me who gets a head start or whatever. Even though they changed the rules the year that I did it, where they
Uh,
gave you a shorter um, window of opportunity where you actually could win, I um, won. The gap that I had between the next person that was coming behind me was the largest gap in the history of this event.
wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I wasn't even supposed to even be in the I wasn't supposed to win that thing at all. And yeah, I ended up winning by the largest gap in the history of that event.
Wow.
Yeah.
Check
So
you out.
that's one of my favorites. So basically, if you have a problem, and those things were kind of fun things. I mean, because like I said, I wasn't trying to get into med school. So if I
Right.
didn't get an A in chemistry, it would have been okay. And I'm not trying to be an elite runner, so it would be okay if I didn't win. But there are some problems that you might feel like this is important, and in those situations, you can still call upon guidance from people, from the masters who know how to do it, because we're all connected. We're all connected to the source of all that is. So if you can put your attention specifically on those who know it the best, know how to do this the best, and
Mm.
call on them, then they can help you out. And you don't even have to talk to them on the phone, and they don't even have to be still on this side or on the physical form, and they will help you out.
Right, right. You're absolutely right. Call it spirit guides,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it is. Spirit
Yeah.
guides, guardian angels.
Hmm.
So you just calling on people, and it's like I said before, like you just said, they can guide you, and they may not give you a vocal answer, but you may be in a situation as to where it's like, hey, hmm, I did ask for help, bam, and then all of a sudden something happens as to where it's like you're getting help that you
Yeah.
asked for.
Yes.
So you're right with that, though. You're right
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, so that's fun. And if you do that with small stuff, start off with small
Mhm.
stuff, and get your questions answered, and your problem solved, get help with them with small things, and just build your confidence up where you can call on someone else, something, the energy that really, I'm not even going to say it's outside of us, it's within us, it's really within us, and just really getting into the flow, and realizing that every problem has a solution, and there are plenty of forces in our universe that would love to direct their energy towards you and to help you move through this process.
Right,
Mhm.
right. So I call them, like I said before, solving your problems. Everybody has an answer to their problem. And what you just said, as far as going within, um, if you go within, you can find a problem within yourself. And when you find the problem within yourself, then you can possibly fix the problem outside of yourself. Yeah. So I love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for this topic. A solution to every problem. There really is a solution to every problem. So that was I think some good avenues of taking to find the solutions to your problem. So just look for stuff that works the best for you, stuff that resonates the best with you, and just go ahead and open yourself up to the possibilities of getting a solution. Because honestly, when we say, I don't know how to do this, or there's no way that this can happen, we're actually shutting down the possibilities. But just make sure we stay out of that space, and just know that there is a solution, and you can try so many creative ways and fun ways, whether it's just taking your energy off of what you don't want and putting it on what you do want, whether it's just accepting it as it is and then blessing it, thanking it for it being in your life, calling on the spirit world, or the masters of the game. Any of those things can be very helpful. So
Right.
thank you, Stephen.
I enjoyed it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. All right. And thank you guys for joining us here. I'm at the Hardys.
The parties.
All right. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Until next time, this is Arvet.
This is Steve. Bye.
Bye bye.